So for example, here we can see an eye, and usually when students start to draw the eye, they go in and draw something that looks like this. Okay, so this is what I usually see when students are first starting out. Okay, this is a symbol of an eye, meaning it's a generic, very general looking eye based on this. So it's not an actual observed drawing of this eye. And the reason for that is from this point to this point, the highest peak is right in that center. From this point to this point, that highest peak is right in the center. Same thing here. So the axis of the eye really is something like this. Okay, that's what you're going to see in most drawings of beginner eyes. And so this becomes a symbol. Just like when you were in elementary school and your teacher asked you to draw a sun, you went like that, right? This is not what an actual sun looks like. Actual sun would blind us. We can't actually see it. Or in elementary school, your teacher asked you to draw a tree, and you probably did something like this. Again, an actual tree won't look like that. This is simply your idea of what a tree looks like at that time. And it's just the images that we have sort of in the library in our head. An actual observed drawing, it's a little bit more carefully and slowly done. And usually what I'll do is I'll look more at the angles and I'll look for the axis. So right here you can kind of see the peak, like that highest point on this line here is right over here. Another high point is here. So it's not in the center, not in the center. Okay, and that low point is like over here. So I'm going to make like a little bit of a larger version of it. So knowing there's going to be a peak here, and then it's going to come down, and then right above here there's a high point. I'm relating this point to this, knowing that my high point is a little bit kind of maybe to the right of that. And then there's just a little bit more of a dramatic angle down. So like this kind of tapers here, from here to here, tapers. And then here, there's sort of a curvy linear line, rounded line. Okay, curvy linear line is like that. And this pupil iris mass is something like this. And that low point is over here because this lower lid is cupping the ball of the eye, right? And when we're drawing this, you're really thinking of the ball of the eye as well. That's why we have that curvy linear line. It's a very structural drawing. Okay, and then once I get to, basically this point, I would then start to get more specific based on what I'm seeing here to get a more accurate and observed eye. So I'm looking at the fullness here. Darker line here. And I'll start to put in that little crease right there. So of course there's more that I would do on this eye to get it to be, more exact to this eye, and carve into the lines with my kneaded eraser. and keep on shaping that until I start to see it match this eye as much as possible. Again, I'm just really doing the contour, I'm not going into shading. Okay, I'm seeing that that's maybe a little bit too exaggerated. I tapered it just a hair too much, so I want to fix that. You can see here now the huge difference between these two. Okay, so this is what I mean by this being a very symbolic or general eye and this being an observed eye. So the same concept applies when you're drawing anything. I'll see students all the time when they're starting to draw something like a bottle or you know, a still life or something. They'll go and they'll look at something like an apple and they kind of draw it very like overly rounded, right? Or like a pear, I see them kind of overly curvy pears. Okay, so when things start to get symmetrical, right? When you notice that things are symmetrical, the peak here is the same as here, here. Like if it's too symmetrical, it's sort of like a red flag that you're tapping into this symbolic making mode in your head. So an actual pear would actually be much more angular than you think. There would be a wide point, a very irregular shape, you know, maybe like on this side, here's the wide points, here's a slight angle. Okay, and then there's plane changes, right? So this is a totally different side on my pear than this side. Okay, and then I'll curve it out a little bit. Okay, so I'm looking for those specific plane changes, those little peaks, all of those are really important, those tiny little points, those little changes in direction, versus doing a symmetrical pear. Again, that's a symbol or an idea, and looking for those angles and getting really specific where those little points, where the line changes right here, where those high points are, those low points are. Doing all of this will help you to practice the skill of observation.